Hey TCS TV viewers, it's Dave and Evelyn from the camera store, and today we have a hands-on look at two of Canon's latest RF lenses.
We have the brand new 15-35 2.8 IS lens and also the 24-70 2.8 IS lens.
We're really happy to see these lenses come out because, to be totally honest, when the EOS R system was announced, it was pretty lackluster in terms of lens selection for this new lens mount.
Yeah, they of course brought out like the 24-105, which was a kit lens on it, the 35-1.8, which is a fantastic little lens, and then
the 50mm.
Oh, the 50 is fantastic,
It's
and then
gorgeous.
the look what we can do lens, the 28-70 F2.
Yes, yeah. But it really wasn't that practical in
No.
terms of the focal lengths that were available. And it's really nice to see that they're going with kind of a professional approach. And so you have the starting one, the 15-35mm wide angle zoom. And then we also have the classic 24-70 sort of traditional mid-range zoom.
Yeah, now, which lens do you prefer between these two?
I love the 24-70. I mean, it's a bread and butter lens. You could shoot events, you can shoot a whole wedding using this one lens, and I think it's really versatile, and it's just something that I've always reached towards.
I agree. If you had to choose one lens for this system, I would go for the 24-70. It certainly appeals to portraits, group shots, wider angle, what have you. It's very, very versatile. Though, if I had the option right now, I would take the 15-35. For me, the 35mm is one of my favorite focal lengths, so I can do all I want with 35mm. It's great for environmental portraits, but it's not great for headshots. But if I want to shoot wide angles and get some kind of crazy perspective, I have 15mm, so it's 1mm wider than 16, which makes a difference. Every millimeter counts.
Every millimeter counts, yeah. It's not always the most flattering perspective. I mean, if we're looking at something that is a good portrait lens,
No.
I mean, I think that, again, the 24-70mm lens is just so perfect for so many portrait type applications.
Yeah, I mean, 70mm is a very flattering portrait length.
So far, I found that the 24-70 F2.8 lens is really sharp, even at the wide end, even if you're opened up to F2.8. And then when you stop down to F4, then you're getting incredible sharpness throughout the entire range.
Yeah, these lenses are incredibly well corrected. Canon has really put, optics first, and the bodies will follow. Hopefully, the bodies will follow Canon.
Yes, yes. We would love to see some more professional level bodies. We'll get to that a little bit later, just based on some of the things that we're seeing with Canon. But in the meantime, why don't we talk a little bit about the differences of what you actually get by going with the RF lens opposed to the original EF lenses.
We have always had some really nice options with Canon with 24-70s. The 24-70 2.8 version 2 is a fantastic lens. I really love it, but we don't have stabilization. If I want to go with a stabilized 24-70, I have to step down to the 24-70 F4, which has IS built into it, but it's not as good of a lens optically. Now, the RF 24-70 2.8 IS gives me everything I want in one lens.
Yes, and they've kept it relatively compact as well.
Yeah.
You're not gaining too much in terms of overall weight and size, but you do get 5 stops of image stabilization and their new USM motor, which is very quiet. And so if you're a videographer, that's something that's going to be very important. And of course, it's a really big advantage with a lot of the mirrorless technology that's coming out. The other thing that we really like about it is, of course, you don't have to use an adapter. And although Canon's adapter is very good and seems to have good communication with the EF lenses, once you mount a lens natively, I think is just so much more convenient. You have less risk of having problems with the different connection points. And I think overall, it's just a better experience. The other thing that I really loved, and it was handy when I was doing some portrait photography with the lens, is having that extra control ring on the front of it. Because I normally shoot with Fuji and Fuji lenses, I love being able to change my aperture on the lens. And so in this case, because it has this custom control ring, you can do that. Or if you prefer changing things like white balance or ISO, then you can customize it to whatever you want. When it comes to the build of this lens, I think that with the weather resistance and the overall compactness, still including the new image stabilization and the new improvements to the optics, I think that this lens does feel superior and it gives you a better experience. And when it comes to the image quality, I've always been pretty happy with the 24-70 f2.8 lens, and I feel the same way about this lens. I was really happy with the portraits I was able to capture with this. I found that when I was shooting wide open, my subjects usually kind of placed more in the middle. I like to fill the frame, and I found that their eyes were really, really crisp, and you could count the little eyelashes just like you could on some of the other RF lenses. Of course, you're still going to get the best performance when you stop down to f4, and then you get really nice edge-to-edge sharpness throughout the entire range.
You are going to pay a premium price for either one of these 24-70 2.8, but for the price difference, I would easily go with the RF 24-70 2.8 IS because it gives me IS and I don't have to deal with that adapter.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I hate dealing with adapters.
Now, as good as the 24-70 2.8 IS is, for me it's kind of a boring lens. It's not really exciting on either end.
Yeah, Dave likes it real exciting.
It's kind of a workhorse lens, I'm not going to deny that, but for me, I love the 15-35. You know, shooting like my son in this rock canyon was great because it really makes it look bigger than it was.
Yeah, and I think shooting kids, you can totally get away with that. It's just not the most flattering perspective.
No, I've got way too many shots of my kids from high above, big head, a little body. It looks pretty cute on that, but for formal portraits and business corporate shots, not so much.
Yeah, I still think the 24-70 is the better portrait lens, but if you want to do more landscape or you want to, like Dave said, have some fun and kind of do some crazy whimsical stuff, then the 15-35 is a fun lens to work with. With the 15-35, you're still getting a lot of the same features that we're excited about with the 24-70mm. You're getting the 5 stops of image stabilization. You have the same kind of weather sealing. Physically, they're actually pretty much identical.
Yeah,
they're maybe like a millimeter
They're just
different.
over a millimeter difference between the two.
And weight, they're pretty close to you.
Yeah, which I love the fact that Canon has really made these lenses very similar in size. When you're packing around a lens and you have a bag set up for certain lenses, these are interchangeable. You know, if I'm using one lens, I don't have to rearrange or have a separate spot for this other lens. So I find I can pack a little bit smaller with lenses like this.
Yeah, you also still get that custom control ring as well.
Yeah, and they both share the same 82mm filter thread.
Yeah, so they're kind of meant to buy in a pair.
Like the 24-70 in the Canon lineup, we have some options in the 16-35 range. Canon has the very good 16-35 2.8 version 3 and also the 16-35 f4 with IS. So very similar situation. They combine both those technologies into the 15-35 2.8 IS. Now 15 instead of 16, you don't think it's a big deal, but on the wide angle, every millimeter counts.
Yeah, again, the main benefit with the RF lens is that you don't have to shoot with the adapter with the EOS R system, and you get that new custom control ring. So we couldn't talk about these lenses without talking about the firmware update that they put in the EOS R and the RP.
Yeah, I have to give Canon credit for that. They are improving it through firmware.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed. I mean, I was kind of disenchanted with the autofocus performance when the EOS R series first came out. I kind of expected more from Canon based on some of the things we've seen with their dual pixel autofocus.
Yes.
But with this firmware update, they've made a lot of major improvements when it comes to face and eye detection, their tracking capabilities, and I just found that the autofocus performance was quite a lot snappier than it was earlier on.
Yeah, I took both these lenses on a hike with my kids, and I put them to good use. It was kind of wet. It was nice that they were sort of weather resistant, but I was very happy with the results I'm getting out of it. There's a couple shots I took, including this one, which was shot at a 1/4 second handheld, something I would not do with another lens before this.
Yeah, and when you're photographing kids in general, like any kind of portraiture, you have to have fast autofocus because if you don't, you're going to miss the moment. And sometimes just those little micro expressions on babies or young kids is where you're really going to get those emotional photographs that the moms are just going to love.
So I really enjoyed using both of these lenses, and I got some really nice results out of it, and they were a joy to use.
Me too. I still would tend to reach more for the 24-70 f2.8 lens, but that's just me.
If I only had one lens to choose, it would be the 24-70, but if I'm going to pack around my 70-200 with the adapter and weigh my kit down, I would grab the 15-35 2.8 IS. I really enjoyed this lens and what I was able to deliver.
Yeah, let us know what you guys think of these two new lenses. Is this something that you would consider? Do you already have an EOS R camera? Are you shooting with the adapter and the old 24-70 or the 16-35mm lenses? Let us know your story by commenting below.
Make sure you follow us on Instagram.
And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so we can catch you again very soon.